On this Junior Use Gasoline Alley, we're doing a little work on my Losi 22s because I don't think the wheel is supposed to do that. Obviously, I was out driving, having a little bit of fun with this thing, and it had a little crash. So, in this video, I'm going to show you how we're going to go about fixing the control arm, but unfortunately, I broke the top of the shock as well. So there's going to be a little work involved there, but luckily this isn't a big deal, and the parts are pretty cheap. I'll have some linked down in the description below if you need. But basically, we've got some shock caps straight from Losi, which will replace the top of the shock, which that's what broke. So if you take a look, the top of the shock broke right around the mount, just kind of snapped right off. Let me see. Yeah, you should be able to see it a little bit better now. So that that part snapped right off. So got to replace that, and then I've got some spare control arms. This is the second control arm I've broken. Luckily not the same one. So hopefully I've got some learning from there, and really that's about it. Should be pretty easy to get done. So let's go ahead and get started with it. So to go ahead and get started here, you'll see that basically this shock should have been mounted up there. Control arm would have been down here. And you'll see what ended up breaking was the end of the control arm. That actually snapped, allowing the hinge pin, which this would have rotated on previously, allowing that to come undone. So really what we want to do to get started with taking this apart is just getting the wheel off. So go ahead and just take your wheel nut off here. And then that should allow your wheel to come off, which is going to allow all the rest of the stuff to be shown pretty free. Then once you're into that, basically all I'm going to want to be doing is just go ahead and take this this hinge pin that goes to the axle, the hub rather, take that out. And to get that done, you'll see there's this this itty bitty little screw there. So go ahead and take, I believe, our 1.5 millimeter. Gonna unscrew that piece. Comes out to the side, and then you can take the 1.5 from the other side and just push back, and that should allow the pin to come right out. And that's going to detach our control arm and our shock from the rest of the truck. And so we'll work on the next pieces in just a little bit. But so now we'll go ahead and take our 2 millimeter and just unscrew the screw that's holding our shock on, and off the shock will come. So if you take a look there, that's the part that that broke. With any luck, we should just be able to unscrew that, and with the replacement parts from Losi, be able to kind of just put a new one on. We might have to re-bleed it, I'm not sure, but we'll see that in just a moment. So go ahead, take our little shock cap. This is what it should look like. And let's see if we pull down on that. No, we're going to need a little bit of grip. Don't want to grip too hard because we're not trying to damage anything. All right. So that came right out, and you can see if you look closely, the oil level is just a little bit below. So we'll go ahead and take, this is our new cap. Doesn't look like, nope, there's no gaskets, so the new one should just slide right back into place. Let the whole thing come back together. And then with our 1.5 millimeter, just gonna lean this up where it's not gonna topple over, but on our old shock cap, there's a 1.5 millimeter bleeder screw. The new caps do come with a bleeder screw, but in this case, I'm just gonna take it off. Why use a new one when the old one still works? Especially since you never know when you're gonna need a spare. Let's take that. And now what we'll do, there's no real reason that this shouldn't cycle and feel real nice, but let's make sure. Yeah. So that feels about right. So we can put that shock aside. And now we've got to move on to taking this part out. So if we take a look, that's going to be our nut that's on the end. Oh, that's a little big. We got to get a smaller driver. Let's try a 5.5. Perfect. So that allowed a small little nut to come out. And now that'll come off, and what you'll see is basically this little spacer that's on there, that's going to slide into the shock. It's almost like a bushing, I think you might call it. I know this is probably a little tough to see. That goes back on. Grab just a touch of Loctite because we want to make sure this doesn't come off. Touch of Loctite on there. And then with our 5.5 millimeter, screw that right back on. And from the other side, I'm just going to get our 2 in there. Make sure we can get that nice and tight. While I'm at it, I'm going to check the torque on the other one, make sure that was a little loose, so I'm glad we did that. And now your shock's back into place and ready to work. So that part wasn't too bad, but now it's on to replace this control arm. So the control arm itself, where it's got the hinge pin, just like where we took it off of the hub carrier earlier, you're going to have a 1.5 millimeter screw. This is what's holding the hinge pin in together. And what I went ahead and did was, while I was out there, I was actually able to find the old hinge pin. Now you can buy these in a set. I'll have a link to that as well. But it's nice to find the old one because we can just reuse that. And we'll open up the spare control arms here. And these are asymmetrical. So while they look pretty similar, you do want to match them up. Make sure that they're exactly identical, which in this case it is. And from here, it's pretty dang simple. So we'll take our new control arm, slide that right into place, just like so. Just kind of slides up. You make sure it's in there correctly, and then you can go ahead and begin to slide your hinge pin back into place. Do that with the help of this flat blade. and you'll feel it bottom out. You don't need to push much further, but now, once that's in there, just take that 1.5 millimeter screw that was holding the hinge pin together, and now we're just going to screw that right back into place. Perfect. Just like so. Now you want to make sure that this moves freely, which it does. We'll worry about the shock in a second. I'm going to do the second hinge pin first. And this is going into that hub carrier. Take our hinge pin. Make sure you get that lined up properly. There we go. It shouldn't take too much force. Let's get that in. Take that 2.5 millimeter screw we were working with earlier. That in, I'm just going to take the shock, kind of move it out of the way. Again, make sure everything moves freely, which it does. And now, we can focus on getting that shock put back in. So you're going to have 2 little screw holes for it. The way I've been running the suspension, it's been on the outermost screw hole. So go ahead. Basically what we're doing here is just making sure we get the eyelet of the shock lined up. That hole. Once it's in, just go ahead and screw down, and you don't need any Loctite on this because this is going into plastic, and Loctite's metal on metal. With that on, you'll see that that's all moving freely, and you're pretty much done. Just the wheel goes right back on. And just like that, the suspension is back working. Everything's good to go, and it's ready for another rip. So you can't beat how easy this Losi 22s is to work on it. I mean, at most, that job probably took me 10 minutes, or actually I'm looking on the camera from start to finish setting up filming. It's at 12 minutes and 48 seconds. So on your own, it's probably a sub 10-minute job to replace the cap for the shock, get yourself set up with a new control arm, and you'll be back out racing. Well, anyways, if this kind of thing was enjoyable for you, I really hope you learned something, and I really hope that that gets you to hit that subscribe button. While you're checking it out, make sure to leave any of your comments down in the comment section below. Happy to respond or answer any questions that you might have. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that like button, smash that big thumbs up. Really helps out the videos and lets me know you enjoyed it. Well, thanks again, and have fun racing.